Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Balo?
Balo? What is Balo?
Balo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Balo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluo, better than sending money.
This is our program. When I say our, Citizens Alliance and the media. This is, if not one of the most important moments or engagements we're going to have, it is the most important. It is the day that we're going to launch a very important document that will tell the world what CA is ready to do for Gambia, what CA is going to do for the people of the Gambia. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming. Before we do anything else, as believers, can we please take a moment and pray in our individual ways to God. May God answer all our prayers. Amen. I would want us to also take a minute, if you don't mind, to just stand for a minute to remember a brother, a friend, a partner in development, one of our members who was called to glory a few days ago. We know him by Emma. Please. May the soul of our beloved brother and the soul of all the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in perfect peace. Amen. Once again, I thank you all for coming. We appreciate your presence here. Without wasting much time, I want to call on our able chairperson, somebody who's worthy of being a leader, somebody who has guided us, though some will say long, but some will say short. But whatever you call it, we've been able to achieve a lot in 1 year. And that could not have been possible without the guidance, the support, the leadership of the Honorable Dominic Mendy. Please put your hands for Dominic Mendy.
Good morning. Our party leader and flag bearer, Dr. Ismaila Sise, members of the CA National Executive Committee, members of CA here present across the country and the globe, members of the press, important partners in the struggle for the positive transformation of this country, distinguished ladies and gentlemen here present and watching from across the country and the world, all protocols duly and respectfully observed. Once again, good morning. My job this morning is very simple. My job is to set the stage for the launching of our manifesto. And as the name implies, CA's manifestation of its understanding of the problem scenario of the Gambia and its offer of solutions for the need to transform this country into that which we desire, where we live in dignity and in prosperity and in overall security. Therefore, the manifesto that we are launching today is a commitment of CA for the transformation of this country, to lift it from underdevelopment to development and security. It will be subject to evaluation. I'm sure it will be subject to criticism. It will be subject to analysis, and rightly so. A lot of effort has gone into evolving and generating this document. And even though that is the case, it may not necessarily be the most perfect document. It's an attempt by CA to capture what it is. That is the problem scenario of this country, and an attempt by CA in consultation with the population of the Gambia to provide offers of solutions. So, in effect, it is the product of an intense internal CA soul-searching and public consultations, and advised by the ordinary citizens of this country and professional subject matter experts. So it's going to be a document that will be understood and reach out to the ordinary citizens like myself and to very highly educated and sophisticated citizens, Gambians and non-Gambians, and institutions in the Gambia and across the world. Coming from a very successful first Congress, this is another milestone in the evolution of CA as an institution of governance in this country. It seeks to sufficiently inform the public of the commitments of conviction by CA to redeem our motherland. And so I encourage you to attentively engage with the entire process so that when we leave this place, we are able to understand even deeper the reason why CA is in the political landscape of the Gambia and what CA could mean for the fate of this dear country. We shall have brief presentations of the document before its launch, and that will be done by our party leader and myself. And eventually we will have the opportunity to have question and answers, an opportunity to discuss some of the issues. Even if we are to spend the whole day here, we would not have been able to discuss sufficiently all the issues in this manifesto. So we will be grateful if we are mindful of that. I will also encourage you, once this document is launched, that you will receive it either in hard form or in soft form, and it will be your responsibility as citizens of this country to proliferate and share it, to explain it, to use it as a basis for showing the world that the method and medium of politics in this country has changed. The youths of this country have risen up to the responsibility of ensuring that they take it upon themselves to transform this country into that which they will desire for themselves and avoid all the mishaps that bedevil them now. I once again welcome you to this launch, and I look forward to an interactive session at the Q&A, and I hope that you will, with close attention, pay attention to the brief presentations that will be made, led by our party leader and presidential candidate, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. And when we would have left this place, we would have proliferated this very essential document. This very essential stance by the youths of this country to take ownership of their dear land. You are most welcome, and I look forward to engaging with you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very, very much, Uncle Dominic, for those insightful, for that insightful message. I remember a very great sister of mine, a motivational speaker, a coach, said in one of her books, leadership without influence is manipulation. And everybody will attest that CA has leadership and CA has a leader who has influence. Thus, we are able to get to where we are today. Thank you very much, Uncle Dominic, and we pray that God leaves you to be able to guide and continue to guide us and protect us. Thank you very much. Without further ado, we're just going to move right along. We're going to get to a very, very important part of this day, that is getting into the document that has brought us here today. A document that we call a contract with the people, a contract with you all out here, contract with everybody watching, contract with Gambia and Gambians. That is CA's Manifesto. Just to remind you, Citizens Alliance was founded on the ideals of democracy, civil liberty, economic prosperity, social cohesion, and social justice, just to remind you. But again, at our Congress last week, we presented to you our flag bearer, presidential candidate, in no other person than Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. And I want to tell you, or remind you, most of you may know, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay is going to be a leader, a servant leader instead of a positional leader. Dr. Ismaila Ceesay will be a person that you can trust to lead this country to where it needs to go. When we're developing our manifesto, it is a document to guide a CA government find its course, create its path, and provide clarity for the Gambia and Gambians. This manifesto you will witness unveiled and officially launched will be CA's contract with all of you, as I mentioned earlier. So I would like to call on Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, who will be taking us through the manifesto process, together with Uncle Dominic, also tell us the core pillars, the key policy areas, and also will not stop there, but tell you what's next for CA after telling you what we have in store for you, what we're going to do when we're in government, and what's next. Thank you very much. Put your hands together for Dr. Ismaila Cisse.
Starting from our party chairperson, Mr. Dominic Mendy, Honorable, and then our National Women President, the President for the Citizens Alliance, Women Alliance, Fatou Sonko, who is also here with us today, Rafidab, the National Mobilizer, Baimona Jallo, our Secretary General, the Youth President, Omar Diba, Jacob Stones, the National Treasurer, of course, and of course our MC for the day, Nene Frida Gomez, the spokesperson and the National Communications Officer. Thank you for starting off this event very well. You're doing a brilliant job. Thank you. I thank all those who are here today, the media in particular. You've been a friend to CA, and we hope this relationship will continue for eternity. Our volunteers who are here today to set up the place. In particular, we also thank all those who took part in the process of this manifesto, from the beginning to the end. It's been a very difficult journey. Diagnosing an ailment that has been on for many, many, many decades and finding prescriptions for that ailment is a difficult task. So it's been a difficult task to diagnose the complex problems of this country and to find prescriptions and solutions for these problems. Many people contributed along the way in different ways. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. Express our sincere gratitude to all the support we've received. Those who contributed by giving us ideas and expert knowledge, those who contributed through their resources, cash. In any way, we thank you. We really appreciate all the support. We are doing this for country. Today we are going to unveil our contract with the Gambian people. Obviously, if you want to govern, there's a reason why you want to govern. We don't want to govern just for the sake of governing. We want to govern because we want to serve our people. This manifesto highlights how we want to serve our people. How do we want to do it? So therefore, we'll start with how the whole process started, obviously. When we established CA and we started discussing the solutions to the many problems of this country, we thought that it wasn't wise for Dr. Ismaila Cisse to think that he knows all the problems of this country. Therefore, he would just sit in his office and come up with the solutions on his own, thinking that these are the right solutions. No. We want to have a consultative process whereby each and every Gambian will take part in this entire process. So therefore, it was a very long, complex process which led to the document we are unveiling today. It started at Ocean Bay. We had a consultative meeting where we discussed what are the pain points, what are the challenges. Two issues were very important during this discussion. How do we solve today's complex problems and anticipate future problems that have not existed yet and start finding solutions for them today? Very difficult to balance. Obviously, we have problems today that need to be solved. These are priority problems. Our people must live in dignity. We must solve the problems that are faced in our healthcare sector, the problems on youth unemployment, the problems in education, environment, you name it. Today, we need to solve it. But at the same time, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that the world is moving so fast that in the next 20, 25 years' time, we'll have more complex problems. How do we anticipate those problems now and start finding solutions for them? This was a very difficult task. So basically, when we discussed these things, we cataloged an initial list of challenges we call pain points at that meeting. When we finished that stage, the next thing we did was to ensure that the whole part of the manifesto process was guided by evidence, empirical evidence, obviously. Data is important, scientific data is important. It gives you an idea as to what is happening, what are the trends, the social trends, the economic trends, the industrial trends, demographic trends. So you can get an outlook, both in the short, medium, and the long term, which can guide the whole entire process. So what we did was, we performed a desk review to further research some of these challenges. Why have they even existed? What has previous governments done to solve these challenges? Which of their actions succeeded? Which of them failed? Other governments outside, what is the best practice we can learn from other countries? What are the gaps? What are the opportunities? All these things we try to understand by doing a desk review of all these challenges. After that, we said, okay, we have an idea as to some of the problems that the country is facing and why they emerge. However, the people who deal with these problems on a daily basis, sometimes they themselves know the solutions to these problems. They also understand why they have these problems, so therefore it's important to engage them, to have an idea as to what do they think are their problems and what are the solutions. So we designed a questionnaire to obtain the perspective of citizens about some of these issues. And the data was collected. Once this process was done, this first part of the process, now we have an idea as to what is the problem and what we think is the solution. Next stage is to now get people together to try to build and create this document. Was when we looked for people who are experts in various fields. We solicited CVs from qualified CA members to work on the manifesto. After that, we developed an initial draft of the manifesto. When that draft was created, we also established internal review sub-teams to look at that draft and enhance and give us feedback on that draft. After that, we sought subject matter expert inputs, people who are experts in various fields, the environment, the economy, social issues, infrastructure. Because these people they're experts. They know exactly what's happening in that field. So we sought also their expertise, their input. When that was done, the feedback we got led us to create what we call the final review team, which worked on the final bits of the manifesto. And after that, we finalized the manifesto, and today we are going to publish the manifesto. We thank all those who contributed during this process. It's been a very challenging but very exciting period. Anything we do for country, we consider to be exciting and worthwhile, and this was a worthwhile process. So basically, that was the process how we came to this manifesto. Just like our chairperson said, it is a working document. It will subject to review, obviously, as we go, because like I said, the world is moving, things change, the dynamics change on a daily basis. But at least this is the basis for what we think should be done to solve our complex problems. It will be subject to review by others. We'll debate about it. Obviously, some will observe weaknesses, some will debate the merits, and so on and so forth, but these are what manifestos are for. So before we go on to discussing the manifesto itself, I'd like to give a context. So we have an idea as to what's happening currently in the country. The total population of the country is 2.44 million people, as of yesterday, in fact, based on World Meter elaboration on the latest UN data. 10 years ago, we were 1.4. It means in 10 years, we've increased by 1 million people. And the projections are telling us that in 2050, we'll be 4.8, almost 5 million people. If we want to build a country where every citizen can live a dignified life, that job must start now to prepare the country for 5 million people. Today, our electricity is not enough to cater for 2.4 million people. Water is not enough. education facilities are not enough. Health facilities are not enough for 2.4 million people. There are massive infrastructural deficits. So imagine a country with 5 million that cannot cater for 2.4 million people. Imagine having 5 million people are not prepared. These are things that we have to think about. Now, out of this population, 59.4 of the people live in urban Gambia. But urban Gambia was not built to cater for 60% of the population. Why? Because of mass rural-urban migration. We neglected rural Gambia. No amenities, no facilities. Nobody wants to live there anymore. No hospitals, no schools, no roads. But urban Gambia was not built for 60% of the population. Therefore, that is why recently you've seen an explosion. And social pressures. The cost of housing has gone up because the demand of housing has gone up. Crime, traffic congestions, lack of water, lack of electricity. These are very important points that we have to also note down. It's a very young country. The median age is 17.8 years. I think it's next to Niger, which is 14, something like that. But it's very young, 17 years, the median age of this country. 65% of the population are below 25 years old. So, and this, if you look at the projections, in fact, it's going to 70% will be under 25 in 25 years' time. So what do we have for young people? How do we ensure they have the right training, the right skill sets to get the right jobs and the right opportunities so they can live a dignified life in their own country without making the decision that they want to leave the country by taking the back way? Life expectancy is 60.9 for male and 62.8 for female. In more developed countries, it's roughly 80 years, 83 years. We want our population to live longer. Why should we die at 63? It means if we have to go by this, I have only a couple of years more to go, and I'll expire. So how do we change this? How do we ensure our population live longer? Literacy rate is 55.5%. The disparity in terms of gender is serious, 63 for male and 47 for female. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Even 55 is too small. If we want to encourage FDI, we must have to ensure we educate the population. We must target 100% literacy rate. That should be the target. Key economic drivers, even though undertapped, agriculture, yet it is undertapped. The entire agro-industry is not tapped to its full potential. We only focus on subsistence farming and not commercial farming. We barely produce 50% of our food needs. The rest is coming from outside. Also untapped, and which is also a key driver of our economy, is the tourism sector. Untapped. And vulnerable and volatile as well to shocks, as we are seeing now. We are in the hotel industry. I have not seen any tubab for the past couple of days because of the COVID-19. And because Thomas Cook went into administration a couple of months ago, thereby destabilizing the entire tourism sector. How can we do to ensure that we take ownership of this sector and move away from seasonal tourism to round-year tourism and promote more local tourism? Remittances, also beyond our control, obviously. It is also a key economic driver. We are ranked 172nd poorest country out of 186 in 2017 by the UNDP Human Development Index. We need to make sure we increase and improve on this. And finally, the country is highly indebted. 84% of our GDP is debt, obviously, the ratio. Very dependent on foreign aid and grants, and highly underdeveloped, despite the huge potentials. After 60 years of independence, with all the potentials in terms of both human and natural resources, the state of affairs today is that of tragedy at worst. So, going back to the process, we came up with four core pillars that we think we should prioritize now be able to solve today's complex problems, but also anticipate for and prepare and plan for problems in the future and find solutions for them now. Therefore, our commitment is to create opportunities, growth, prosperity, and restoring dignity to the Gambian people. This vision rests on these 4 core pillars. One is to create economic prosperity and decent jobs. We must create a strong economy. We must provide decent jobs for our people, especially our young people. Jobs that pay a living wage. Jobs that ensure that when you retire, you go and live your retirement in dignity. The second pillar is empowering the Gambian citizenry. How? By making sure that we equip them with the tools they need to live a dignified life. Access to basic quality healthcare, which is affordable. Access to quality relevant education. Access to clean water. Access to uninterrupted electricity. Access to the right infrastructure. Pillar 3, to promote good governance and transparency. I mean, any country without good governance, you cannot achieve much. We've seen that in the African continent, that countries that don't promote good governance are countries that lag behind. Accountability, transparency, building the right institutions to govern this country. And number 4, ensure peace, security, and stability. And when we say security, sometimes our mind goes on to what they call traditional security. Arms and ammunition and large armies. No. The world has shifted now to focusing more on human security, which is the most important thing. If you invest in people, you create a more stable society. If you reduce inequalities in society, you produce a more stable society. Therefore, it's about investing in people and ensuring that you create an environment where minority rights are respected and diversity is promoted. So these are the 4 key pillars. To start off with the first pillar, I'd like to call on the chairman, Mr. Dominic Mendy, to take us through what a CA government will do to promote sustainable growth when we come to power in 2021. Thank you very much.
Now, let me say this. Let me just go back, if I can, to the core pillars that have been presented by Doctor. You see, I want us to just take a few seconds to reflect on these core pillars. Creating economic prosperity. That means we create wealth. We have potential as a nation to build wealth. So we have to take advantage of that potential and build wealth. We have to create wealth. But creating wealth alone is not tantamount to prosperity. That wealth has to be equitably distributed so that everybody has access to it and everybody benefits from it. Oh, the mic here? Okay. Now, and that's why we are talking about decent jobs. Because jobs are one of the most effective mechanisms of distributing wealth to everybody in society. Now, if we look at these pillars, creating wealth, creating economic prosperity, empowering the Gambian citizenry, promoting good governance, they are outcome pillars. That is, at the end of a period in time, we will be assessed on how much we have achieved these. And our promise is that we will ensure that we achieve this so that the Gambian becomes a dignified person. Now, but the implications are that to achieve this, the hard battle must be fought. There are certain policy areas that we must deal with. And I want us to just locally or ordinarily define the word policy from a non-intellectual perspective. You know, and I want to use one simple word, which is the closest synonym to a policy. They are the rules. Our policies are our rules. For us to be able to achieve those 4 pillars, it cannot be business as usual. The rules have to change. So a CA government will bring change in the structure of government itself and in the way in which things are done. So the policies will change, the systems will change, because it's only with these changes that we can achieve what Dr. has so eloquently explained to us. Now, let me just quickly go through this. I'm not going to read everything. I just want you to understand that these are the policy areas, these are the rule areas. And a government that cannot take on change because change is slightly distasteful, and good change usually is not initially very popular. But it has to be done. If it is not, we cannot achieve the outcomes that we have identified, that Doctor has identified. So now, sustainable growth. If you build wealth, it has to be wealth that is sustainable. So we have to be able to grow in a manner that that growth will benefit us as a nation. The Gambia, if you look at the Gambia's economic history, it has had pretty relative, appreciable level of growth. When I say relative, if you compare it to other African countries, you know, relatively good. But we've not felt this growth. There is still serious poverty. There is still deprivation and poverty of all dimensions. This is not acceptable. Okay? So some of the activities that CA will embark on will include working with the National Assembly to establish and manage public-private partnerships. You know, if you look at our national budget, you see that we fund our budget from our domestic resources, from grants, from loans. But we have very little FDI into this country. So we have to be able to be creative as a people to attract foreign investment into this country. And we think one step of doing that very effectively is to establish a very effective public partnership program so that it will attract investment into this country, into all the nooks of industry and sectors in this country. Dynamize economic growth, increase economic activity, and generate greater public revenue potential and private revenue potential. Again, we will create, say, 75,000 jobs for skilled workers, especially the youth. And we are talking about our first stint in government, the first 5 years, if we are elected into office. We will create an enabling environment for small businesses. Remember, you know, if you look at this country, big businesses, you can count them. You know, I was involved in one research looking at how to establish a capital market in this country. And the research was looking at public liability companies. And at that time, there were only about 5. 99.9% of businesses in this country are small, medium enterprises. So if you really want to touch the lives of people, you have to ensure that these businesses feel your presence as a government. Okay? And in the process, we will partner with Gambian producers to develop the right policy mix, you know, to be able to exploit trade and growth opportunities. This country is a small country. And it is technically a landlocked country. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. We only have openings to the world from the sea. And if we want to attract significant investment, foreign investment, into the various sectors of our country, we have to be able to assure the investors that there is market potential. When they produce, they will be able to sell their product. The market will exist. That is not readily available today because there are a lot of bottlenecks, even reaching our neighboring market or even the market just immediately beyond our neighbors. So that's one thing that a CA government will ensure, and we will galvanize those wanting to reorient towards fast-growing markets or export imports. So we'll improve productivity and commercialization of the agricultural sector, because you see, agriculture is one of 3 sectors which Doctor has indicated that they are the drivers, current drivers of economic growth. It's agriculture, it's tourism, it's remittances. The question really is this desirable? He's also explained to us that 2 of them are very vulnerable. Vulnerable to the extent that we are not in control, tourism and remittances. Because of COVID, we are not getting as much remittances as we used to get. If they are unemployed where they are, they cannot remit. Because of COVID, tourism has technically come to an end. So do we want to run a country that depends on sectors with this level of volatility? And that's where CA is. That's why CA, with its ingenuity and ability to mobilize knowledge and skills from across all Gambians in all walks of life, within the domestic economy and abroad, will ensure that we redefine the mix of the drivers to constitute an element of mix that is very consistent and that which we can manage in spite of the vagaries of the dynamisms in the global environment. So, and you know, we are going to restructure the agricultural sector, increase investments in farm and manufacture infrastructure, invest in scientific research. These are all the things that a CA government will do. A CA government is going to be an informed government. It's not going to be a government whose policies will be generated for them from outside. It's a government to be a government whose policies, in order to be able to achieve those outcomes, will be a result of properly thought out and consulted Gambian solutions to their problems. Of course, that is not to say that we do not entertain external assistance. We certainly do. But we have to do our work first and be assisted. Assistance cannot convert to the raison d'etre of how you survive. Then you have no survival line. So, continuing sustainable growth. So we are going to ensure food security. And what a CA government will do in this respect includes committing to increasing the budget allocation for agriculture in accordance with the Maputo Declaration. Today, I mean, was it last year? Last year, the allocation to agriculture was less than 3%. Imagine. And we say that agriculture is the biggest employer in the country. At a certain time of the year, it employs about 70% of our population. It provides food and livelihoods to most people, and yet agriculture receives less than 1/3 of what security receives. And security defined in the context of bodily security, not defined in the context of human security, because then human security would include agriculture. So we will commit, a CA government will commit to offer minimum guarantees to farmers in terms of crop and producer prices at the beginning of each crop season. We have seen what is happening with our groundnuts. You know, if we are not careful in the way in which we plan and execute our economic plans to sustain growth, what will happen is our economy will be a foreign economy. It will be part of an economy of another country rather than our own economy. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And it is important that we use all that we have and can produce in terms of intellect, in terms of professional ability and competence to define, generate, and implement plans that will ensure that we have an economy that answers to our policy decisions as a people. And when I say this, I'm saying Gambians, not CA, Gambians. But that's what a CA government will do. And going on again, sustainable growth, you see, we spent a lot of time, the document has spent a lot of time on sustainable growth. Because at the end of the day, anybody who goes to a polling vote and has a vote to cast and looks at the array of people who offer themselves as heads or presidential candidates, it's not their faces that they like. It is what they think they can do for them. And that is what should determine whether you vote for CA or you vote for some other party. And the most important thing in our lives as human beings is first and foremost to grow, to have something by which we must subsist. And beyond that, to enjoy quality, good life compared with the rest of humanity. And that should not only happen temporarily or sometimes, it must happen sustainably, all the time. And that is why the document has spent so much time elaborating on how that wealth will be built, how it will be sustained, and how when the Gambia achieves development, it will continue to develop, and how it will be equitably distributed so that everybody benefits from this growth. Okay? So we are going to improve productivity. And again, I want you to understand productivity and production are not necessarily the same things. Productivity is the extent and the extent to which you use, say, time. You can give in work to do to 3-4 people, and somebody produces 30 items in 1 hour, and somebody else produces 100 equally good items in the same hour. Who is more productive? The fellow with 100 items in the same 1 hour. So that is exactly what we will do. And I'll give you an example. If you go to Taiwan, I've been in Taiwan 4 times. If you go to Taiwan, we have a larger agricultural land area than Taiwan. But you know, in Taiwan, this room could constitute somebody's farm. Somebody's farm. And his livelihood comes from farming in this land equivalent to the size of this room. But how is that possible? And the person produces as many times, depending on the seasonality of the products, and produce as many times and quantities to the extent that he sells and buys a house, maintains a family, sends children to school and to universities. That can only happen as a result of the optimal utilization of this space to produce the highest level of output. That is what Gambia is supposed to be. And that is what a CA government is going to turn the Gambia into, honestly. So we know that in this country, the biggest employer is government. And rightly so, because the way in which we were structured during the colonial days as a government to serve the interests of the colonial masters. But today, we have to have a proper government, a government that is a catalyst for growth and creates an environment in which people will take advantage of their abilities, the entrepreneurial abilities, the abilities, ñun ñëpp jula lañ. Everybody julanga. Everybody am nga xam-xam boo xam ne suñ la mee yow xam-xam boobu di nga ko jëfoo be yow doo soxla sax pour sa doom su wàccee school wala su jeexalee université mu dem uti liggéey sa nguur ga waaye dool newul ne liggéey nguur baaxul non liggéey nguur baax na waaye at the end of the day nguur du producer nguur du béy nguur dafa yombal béy dafa yombal jula dafa yombal industrie loolu la nguur di def waaye ñii béy ñii liggéey ñii tax dëkk bi naat dëgga mooy ñun waaye nag bala loolu di xew nguur yombal ñu ko nguuri CA loolu laa def okay, and then we as a CA government recognize that as a people we are either male or female. We are going to be really very gender sensitive in that. And we know also, and we recognize, that in order for us to achieve those policy outcomes, we need to use one of the most productive resources in this country, and is the female resource. Go anywhere, you find them there. And they work like they will not, there is no time to work tomorrow. So in order to be able to do that in the interest of those women and in the interest of the country, in order to build sustained wealth generation and equitable distribution, a CA government will sensitize the role of women in the economic development of this country. They have to. Otherwise, we have not started as a nation. If women are outside of the development planning and the development perspective of this country, then we have not started thinking about how to live and sustain ourselves as a country. So we will, in the process, establish a Women in Leadership Development Program and set inclusion quotas for key leadership positions in government and private sectors. Women will be present in every key leadership position so that we are, as a nation, are able to benefit from this reserve of expertise and energy, which is called female energy. Okay? And then we redesign and rebrand tourism. Tourism is good, and every country benefits from tourism. You know, when you are talking about America, people would normally not talk about tourism. But you know, if you go to any city in the US, tourism is one of the main things that provides, I mean, just go to New York. You know, you see groups of people, Chinese, Japanese, Africans, Koreans, you know, people from all over the world going to different places in New York. And you know, if you imagine the volume of people who go in and out of those places of New York, and that's the same with every other city, and you imagine the amount of wealth created as a result of those people coming in, staying in hotels, eating out of restaurants, shopping and taking, it's just a mover of the wheels of economic development. And so we have to now, as a CA government, we will rebrand tourism. Tourism will continue, beach and sun tourism will continue to be very important because we have it. But then we have a lot to offer elsewhere. Rural tourism. We also have a lot to offer domestic tourism. There are a lot of people who because they have not been born in the provinces, hardly know beyond Brikama. And there are a lot of things to enjoy in Basse. There are a lot of things to enjoy in Soma. You know, you just have to go there. You know, if you go to Pasimas, you know, Fatou, and you cross the bridge, you know, to Pasimas, and you go into those areas and go to the Sami Pachonkes, this is a beautiful country. So domestic tourism itself is an untapped potential which we will encourage. But you know, for somebody to be able to say, I'm going on vacation to Basse, he has to be able to say that when I come back, I'll find food in my house. So sustainable growth, sustainable development is what ensures that people, like Ismaila has said, will be paid decent wages, and the wages that are able to sustain them and give them an opportunity to choose to go out and enjoy themselves with their families or increase and enhance the experiences of their children by letting them know their country. So again, in order for us to achieve those outcomes, it is important that the civil service is reformed. The civil service is the arm of government that facilitates the operations of government. It includes what is supervised by the PMO, the Personnel Management Office, but if you expand it a bit more and call it public service, it includes even the state-owned enterprises. But for any country to be effective, the civil service has to be very effective. And so our government, a CA government, will ensure institutional effectiveness. That is, that every institution in the civil service will be built and structured in such a way that it will take the right decisions at every point in time. You know, and it will ensure optimal efficiency for service delivery to all Gambians and everybody that enters this country. It will ensure that resources are allocated in a responsible, transparent, responsible, timely, and efficient manner. And that covers everybody. Okay? And then it will ensure realistic living wages and pension benefits. And I think that has been sufficiently elaborated by Ismaila. And establish a diaspora policy that will facilitate the recruitment and repatriation. You know, we have very, very well-educated and very well-skilled Gambians out there in the diaspora who will be very willing to come back here and enter the civil service and work and bring the different cultures of work and attitudes that they have to enhance what we already have. That has happened in Taiwan. That's the way Taiwan was developed. That's the way South Korea was developed. So why can't we do it? And we relate with the diasporan Gambians as if they are people from another planet. They are people who are first Gambians. But they also want to come back here. This is because for them this is ultimately home. Okay? Now, procurement. You know, procurement means buying, acquiring services by government. Government wants to build a house, build an office, or build a road. Government wants to buy something. You know, government wants the services of a consultant to do some policy review for them or to prepare some strategic plan for them. How does government do that? Government should be able to do it in such a way that it gets, one, the best service, and two, the service with the lowest cost possible for that best output. That's what government. So in order for that to happen, because what that does, it reduces the cost of operation of government and frees resources for other more important things. So what a CA government will do is it will regulate and harmonize public procurement processes. And that's why I say these are the policies, these are the rules. And the implications would be that there will be institutional reviews, you know, and institutional changes in the public procurement systems. So it will review and implement an effective procurement system to create optimal, transparent, streamlined methods to buy goods and services. You know, and it will establish procurement vehicles to reduce administrative acquisition costs. So, you know, and to ensure equitable awarding of contracts. And, you know, the CA government is sensitive to the fact that we have businesses. And these businesses need contracts because that's the way businesses grow. Rural businesses, you know, women in business, startup businesses, youths in business, business owned by differently abled persons. But then, it's not going to be a handout to them, but they would have had the capacity. But the system to ensure that they have access to those contracts and also participate in the economic growth will what CA will establish in its new procurement outfit. So I will ask Ismail again to continue the process with health, and you know, very soon we will cover it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think when Mr. Chair speaks after I spoke, you could see the different worlds we came from. One from academia, one from policy. I think it's a combination of these that would propel the Gambia into prosperity. Also, I'd like to bring the attention of the media to the different posters we have in the room. If you are interested in taking photos of them, that would be good. Memim fokan jam badingol wolon ko bimien sijang wolon ko kana jube Citizens Alliance ko elafta ka banko ta 2021. Bari min kumma da wolon be min nyinin kala Citizens Alliance wolon ko monati na alafta ka banko ta. Bawo ni inata moya kay ko ite ngaje ko jankaro le be alafta ke jara. Kanyanta nyinin kala alafta kan jara nyaadi le. Bari folo jani ba fly ba jar iba fly folo monala sasati. Ni manifesto bi wolon tolla do ko kaje ko Gambia la jankaron ko mimbe Gambia la kabring aya fan soto fo sañ kabri 1965 fo sañ ko Gambia mantara takan anyama bawo ko ngam fan soto le bari ku jama bi dembu ka ke non faye bawo hani kabe mu kam fan jarano ni sasata Gambia bankun kanjam bi e ke samba Senegal e kate ke jaraje wala nin ko do be buleta private hospital bare ntola public l'hôpital hani borol fangol tije hani kabiri ngam fan soro fo sañ mon fan dañi ni no bawo bin ka fe ngofen demo min kana jang akabona bantala bankol le kan kabo si sewol fo mano fo ye koku akana kabona ma bu ko ton tol kabiri ngam fan soro sañ ta woro hani sañ mon fan dañi ni no kabiri ngam fan soro fo sañ jiyo fo ngam bukali non fanna moka korongo di non fanna wodumo kulte mialon ko kombe o kala nyaadi de pour ka jume fere jumale landi la kaje ko Gambia ke banko di banko mialon ko momo wuluto jang isitara o Gambia jang foroya kono ani bunya kono ani horomo kono nsita nga kol kisi ko nyinaati na Gambia be tembo mento abe nyin temboto mbe nyin sim falle tala ni nyin ferol kaje ko Gambia bo abe tembo mento tending isaja ke banko ti mialon ko Gambia no Gambian bijang astarano nyin Gambia banko kan foroya kono bawo mbe ngalo de molem banko la dépense oti Dominique la kacha min kuma fo jang science te wolon dépense bundambe mu nekela kaje ko Gambia la dépense Gambia la nafulo a Gambia dingol be nafa monata na Gambia la nafulo nyanda kam mo dantane nafa barade Gambia dingol be nafa la munana teddi ngol nyanda kada kanam mun kendol to bare mo kari mialon ko bora kyang wala foñi wala nyomi wodi ngo manta karam mun kendol to ndala musota l'hôpital kendol to bare mo kotana musul manta l'hôpital kendol to Gambia la nafulo nyanda Gambia dingo be na baro nafulo ka do kula mewo nafulo do kula nyaade le bawo ala buka nafulo dila ayana do kuye aka dila le fongo ay hakilo dila ye ferol ta ko nafulo doku wo nafulo bunda ka doku nyamen Dominique wala sata jan science teng Gambia mansa kunda lo mialon kontol Gambia dingo le nga tombo nga keje beri nga keje Gambia la dépasse mialon kon surata lan tolle kadi mansa kunda la akatama nyaadi la nim mansa kunda ko Gambia la dépasse mo dala si kemelete pour que Gambia dingol be dañi ni ka borol dila ka silol da kaje ko security soto dala si kemelon ntol Gambia dingol lewo kawo ko do nyini kadi mansa kunda la wati do la bukasi nka nyini nyaadi le na Sénégal la doko anen ntol ka lempo minjo kadi mansa kunda la nim mansa kunda ko Gambia dingol altol de ale tanan le jow folo atata woro pour kaje ko na dépasso ici ikata moneke ikata ko do le funam bantan tol to yala wara ta ko do dani bantan tol to yala baro furon tol le fanam ba jola wolon bojetti woke monia so sañ ya decide ko sañ muang le kata healthcare pour alla jata kende ya lulu wala bita pour alla karango tan saba pour alla security wolon budget bari bi ngajala ko min kamin dani anin kamin fu wala siatan tol fan kamin doku andu nga sembo so de pour ka doku pour se min doku no woy sian kamin fu anin kamin dani wo ferol Dominique wala landi jambi kabo agriculture seno bunda nyanda ka monek fukaje ko seno nyinga doku isaja si Gambian nafa kata tourism kaje ko amanke ko kafo ko april ning november ni april do no bari sango be anin fanan kaje ko si bono jangara basse ngara tourism yala je nina dimbayal wala ngara foñu wala ñomi amanke ko tourism nak tubabol droy nak bo bantal banko kan kana bari nte fon si wuli weekend killing ko modu ngara basse ngata ke tourism sotije wala moy bonam basse ena akakana ke tourism sotijang anen ku koten nul saka seno bunda fango makela nyaare le pour kaje ko nga fe ngo fen sene jang nga do ku jang ay nafa jang monana na tiyo nyanda ka wa fi bantala bankol kam bari tiyo montol nafa makeno tuloti na si kilo monana makeno mayone solti anen ku koten nul wo ferol Dominique wolle kataja sa minata da me wolom jata kende ya fongo wolom healthy. So health is a priority area for Citizens Alliance, obviously. Now, before I go to that, suma mbokay luñ doon waxtaan fi moy Citizens Alliance wax nañ la ñom dañ bëgg jël réew mi 2021 pour liggéey ko. Te képp ku jóg mu ne dafa bëgg jël réew mi pour liggéey lo ko ñëk laaj moy yow lan nga bëgg def ak naka nga bëgg liggéey réew mi. Lan mo la taxa jóg. So fekkee nit mu ngi am jàngoroom nga ne ko kay ma faj la lo ñëk ko wara ñëk wa moy lan moy jàngoro ji. So ko waxee loolu afta nga ñëw nga ne ko lan nga war a def pour faj ko ñun manifesto bi mooy ñun suñ gestu buñ def si lu tax Gambia ba léegi mënut a dem kanam depuis buñ amee suñ bopp ba léegi lépp loo xam ne ñun dañ ko fee soxla daf dee ñëw jógee si biti mu ñëw si réew mi fekk ñu fii nii ba léegi mënuñoo dundal suñ bopp parce que lu ñu fi lekk rek tey si biti la dee jógee maalo mi nga xam ne ñun loolu lañ yaakaar loolu la ñoo lekk bés bu ne biti la dee ñëwee mu ñëw fii nii te ñun mun nañoo ji suñ maalo fii ñu lekk ko ba suur lu si des ñu jaay ko si biti waaye déedéet léegi maalo si biti la dee jógee ba léegi suñ feebaree mënuñoo faj suñ boppa parce que ku feebar tey yi da nga dem Sénégal wala garab sax amut mënuñoo defar suñ garab yi boppa feebar yoo xam ne sax ñun loolu moo ñu sonal sax mënuñoo am garab pour feebar yooyu noonu si biti lañ ko yaakaaree ndox sax mënuñ koo jox suñ bopp parce que léegi ñu bari fi amuñ ndox seeni dëkka ak seeni jumtuwaay amuñ courant bu doy yoon yi mutuñ léegi ñun ñu ne Citizens Alliance lan lañ war a def pour gis ne képp koo xam ne Gambian nga fii nga juddoo si réew mi nga yaroo fii màggee fii si teraanga ak si ngor ak si sutura parce que luñ soxla yépp pour am façon réew boobu yàlla mee nañu ko dafa des si ñun léegi yan façon ngi pexe la ñuy war a teg luñ tëddal si xam-xam pour liggéey réew mi pour suñ ndaw yi ñu mën a nekk si réew mi mun a tekki si réew mi mooy pexe yooyu noonu yooyu la Dominique Mendy suñ chairman bi la fi teg si wàllum mbéy ñun lan lañ bëgg a def si béy ak si béykat yi pour gis na nekkuñ di béy rek di jaay waaye di béy luñ béy ñu def ko si yoo xam ne dañ ko fee soxla su boobaa loo xam ne rek dañ ko fi soxla muy mayonnaise muy ketchup loo xalaat loo xam ne soxla nañ ko fi ñu mun ko fi defar fii nii lu des ñu jaay ko si biti si wàllum tourisme bëgguñoo am tubaab bi di ñëw rek waa ñu ni neen tamit ñu dem touriste mun naa dem ñëw mi ma dem nekka touriste foofu maa suma joboot waa ñu mun naa ñëw Bakaw nekka touriste fii nii so pexe yu Dominique doon waxtaan fii nii tey pour gis ne Gambia nekk la réew boo xam ne moom na boppam moom sa boppa du am flag ak national anthem ak tour ne Gambia la waaye moom sa boppam mooy loo xam ne danga ko soxla sa réew sa joboot soxla na ko nga mun koo defal sa boppa nga mun a faj sa soxla boppa kilifa bu dem ba mag am juróom fukki at mun loo dundal sa boppa mun loo faj say doom mun loo jàngal say doom mun loo fay sa courant yi kër bañ la coupé courant mun loo fay ndox bañ la coupé ndox yow kilifa googu war ngaa seetaat sa boppa kon ñun Gambie léegi war nañoo seetaat suñu boppa te chaque at ñu dem Makati Square di màggal bés bu ñoo ooyee bés bu ñu amee suñu boppa waaye lu ñu màggal man loolu laa xamul parce que amuñ dara lu ñoo màggal ci réew mi. From there we come to health. The Englishman said a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. We've seen that one of the reasons why we are doing so poorly in the Human Development Index is because we have invested so little in healthcare. And if you look at the budget. So what we would do as a government is to assess and synchronize current health sector plans and policies with CA's broader national development agenda. Like I said, CA is not only going to have a short-term development agenda, but a long-term development vision, a master plan for this country. I said looking at the social, even look at the health trends. Today, most of our ailments in this country are heart diseases, high blood, diabetes, and so on and so forth. What kind of ailments will we have in 25 years' time? We need to be able to know. The research will tell us that the way trends are going in 25 years, this is how things will be. So we must have a healthcare strategy. What is our healthcare strategy? Invest in critical health infrastructure. We all know that most of the hospitals are not fit for purpose. Our ambulances are not fit for purpose. They are sick vehicles. Ambulances, when they come to pick you up, they must be giving you treatment at that spot before they reach the hospitals. We must invest in infrastructure, obviously. And include equipment, obviously, proper equipment, CT scans. It pains me that I see people running around begging for blood. Somebody is dying at RVTH, blood O+, can somebody help? We don't even have a proper, well-equipped blood bank that can ensure constant supply of blood to those who need it. Transportation, ambulances. Sometimes people die in this country of preventable deaths. You have an accident on the road to Kiang, on that road, there is no emergency services in this country. You have to rely on a gele-gele to transport you to the next hospital. Before you reach the hospital, you don't have care, you die on the way. This is preventable. So we are going to invest in infrastructure to ensure that there are proper systems and processes, and also provide initiatives for the staff. Increase provision of safe maternity services that include antenatal care. That when a woman is expecting, from the day it is known that she's expecting to the day she'll deliver, there'll be constant care to ensure both the woman and the baby is safe. Safe delivery by skilled midwives, quality care for obstetric and neonatal emergencies, postnatal care, obviously, when she has also delivered, that care must continue, and family plan that stresses the importance of healthy timing and spacing of pregnancies. Also, we have to streamline, fund and staff all research-centered institutes like the National AIDS Secretariat, work together with the MRC, and so on and so forth. But to have a well-equipped, a good quality healthcare sector, you must have the software, the people who are going to work in the healthcare sector, the nurses and the doctors. So therefore, we are going to attract, retain, and develop world-class talent. The delivery quality healthcare hinges on ensuring our greatest asset. What is this asset? The medical personnel. We have to empower them and engage them and equip them with competencies, tools, and opportunities. It is painful for a nurse or a doctor to want to save a life in a hospital, and he or she could not because he or she lacks not the knowledge, but the right equipment. Invest in expanding dentistry services and in providing fellowship programs for doctors, scientists, and clinicians dedicated to creating the highest health standards through prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of oral and ophthalmic conditions. But importantly, which is also critical, emergency medical services installed. Today, if something happens to someone in this room, can we call emergency services to come to our aid straight away? I don't even know what number to call. Now, we have to install a coordinated dispatch and call center system in all regions for emergency medical care involving both the public and private sectors. So education is also a key priority area for a Citizens Alliance government insofar as empowering the citizenry is concerned. We will carry out an extensive assessment of the Gambian education system, labor market, and economic structure. I've always argued, and I'll argue here today again, that the education sector serves two purposes. One is to solve your country's problems of today and help you build the society you want for the future. If it does not serve this purpose, then it is worthless. The current education sector needs to be reformed to shift away from knowledge consumption more towards creativity. How do we create creative Gambians in all fields of society? So we need to assess and reform the entire education sector. The objective is to create a system that is focused on acquiring knowledge and applicable skill sets, obviously. The assessment will inform a phased reform process which will consist of the following. Establish an ICT-driven process that supports evidence-based decision-making with respect to resource allocation, strategic planning, and monitoring and evaluation of all educational institutions. We review and assess the curriculum, of course, at all levels. The curriculum is important. Like I said, we must be able to solve our problems today. We must be able to anticipate and know exactly what jobs will be available in 25 years' time. Because if you don't look at those trends, perhaps today accounting is relevant, it might not be relevant in 10 years' time. You educate all your population in accounting, in 10 years accounting is irrelevant, your population's education is redundant. So you have to make sure that you continuously review the curriculum. We want to increase literacy and numeracy rates amongst the educational disadvantaged learners and create a favorable framework for functional adult literacy. Again, like I said, knowledge is key. Even those who are into farming, they need the right knowledge to do farming properly. They need to know exactly what's happening in that sector. So therefore, we'll fund certification programs for all vocational, agricultural, and technical schools to fill labor gaps. We have to understand the labor trends. What does the labor market need? We have to provide that. How do you provide that? By making sure that there's an alignment between what we produce in terms of education and what the labor market needs. And this requires a collaboration between the troika, that is industry, that is academia, and that is government. We will also heavily invest in early childhood education. It is key. It's where everything starts. If you get that nursery school education wrong, it affects your entire process. And currently, government is not investing in early childhood education. Most of the nursery schools are built by NGOs. So we have to heavily invest in this because this is key. We'll also provide the technical facilities in schools like Wi-Fi coverage, working with private sector, but also Gambia College, the trainers, this institution that trains our trainers. If the teachers are not well trained, forget about education. And that place has been neglected. We have to invest and revamp Gambia College to make sure we produce world-class teachers who will teach our children to become world-class citizens. Now, higher education and tertiary education will also make education free only in critical sectors. Not every, but critical sectors that we think are key to move the economy, those will be free. Also, loan schemes for bright students as well. Teacher salaries must be increased, and head teachers for both conventional and non-conventional institutions, and ensure that teachers who upgrade their qualifications and skills are promoted promptly and that their salary increases immediately. We'll support and strengthen non-conventional education centers to prepare their students for the global labor market. The idea is that whether you go to an Islamic school or you go to a normal conventional school, you must be prepared for the global labor market. Why should my child want to go to the Arabic school? When he graduates, he cannot get a job anywhere. We want to provide a situation whereby whatever school you choose to go to, once you graduate, you'll get an equal chance of getting a job, not only in the Gambia, but globally as well. When it comes to gender, family, welfare, and social care, we want to create a more equitable society that benefits every Gambian. We cannot see why there should be disparities in wealth or access to education or access to financing or access to land. That should stop in this country. So therefore, we realize that an important feature of poverty in the Gambia is its gender inequality dimension. We have to reduce the gap. We have 8 priority areas that are aimed at achieving equality for women, girls, and other vulnerable groups. And these are all part of the manifesto. We have various policies that promote social welfare to indirect economic support for families. For example, free education policy, universal health care, free maternity health care, and free basic health care service are just some of the things that we want to introduce to ensure that we produce a society that is fair and just. We want to strengthen, we believe that the strength of a nation can be measured by the hope it offers to its young people. Like I said before, 65% of our population are below 25. The median age is 17.8. It's a young population. Everything we do should revolve around young people. But not only that, future generations as well, their welfare must be protected now. Therefore, it is the young people's hopes and aspirations that must define our goals as a people. They are the future. Gambian youths are at the center of our development strategy, we at CA, and a key driver for sustainable development. We believe in the huge potential of young people in this country, and we believe the country cannot move if young people are left behind. Therefore, our national youth policy is designed to help mold our young people. We have to harness their leadership skills, provide quality education for them, offer support to entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, develop their skills, and create opportunities through social inclusion, arts. We have a lot of talented Gambians who are into arts, but no opportunities to develop those skills and benefit from it. Music and sports. In pursuant of this, CA will focus on the following key 10 areas of youth empowerment, and if you read the manifesto, all these things are there. Thank you very much. Dominic, the area is for you.
Well, I am back. Now, the policy area I'm dealing with now, after Ismaila has shown our stance on health and education, I just want to reinforce what he has said. You know, we have 4 policy outcomes. And for us to achieve those, the priority really is to build wealth. We have to optimize the creation of wealth, economic growth, so that we will grow as a country. There will be jobs for people who need the jobs and can do the jobs. There will be opportunities to invest for people who want to invest, ready to invest. And there will be opportunities, an enabling environment for you to be able to access financing and all what is required to undertake investment if you really are an entrepreneur. There will even be opportunities to develop your entrepreneurial capability. So when you create wealth as a nation, that's not the end of the job. You have to distribute the wealth. What Doctor has just done is to show us how wealth is effectively distributed. One of the main mechanisms of really distributing wealth is in education and health services infrastructure. Because this infrastructure ensures, like he's given an example of schools. Why should people be able to send their children to good schools while some cannot send them to good schools? So there should not be a bad school. We should have, all schools should be good schools. Why should somebody with an ailment be able to go to a first-class place and somebody else can only afford a no-class place. There should be an every-class place, so that when you wake up and you have an ailment, you don't begin to wonder where you go. You go to the next health infrastructure, the closest health infrastructure to you. And the assumption is the entire health infrastructure and service delivery system should have been fit for purpose. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thanks. That I think we need. And that's the way to distribute wealth. You don't pay people salaries to go to a hospital or to go to a good school, but you avail them good schools, either free, as CA is attempting to do with basic education from primary to high school, and for critical skills in tertiary and higher education. So if the schools are there, and the schools are affordable, and they are available, and every school will be able to provide you with quality education, so it means whether you are rich or poor, we all have access to the same good facilities. That is distributive. And that is a big problem on the continent, is a big problem in our country. But that is a problem which CA will certainly solve, because CA's repository of ideas and capacity to address critical issues of development is you, the people. And that is why it is called an alliance. It's an alliance of all of you. Alliance of all of us. It's an expression of each individual's responsibility and commitment to developing the community, this community called Gambia. Now, the next policy area is governance and transparency. If all of these things are done, if we really don't have a proper governance system, we will just return to square one. So we have to ensure that we have a proper system of political governance, of governance in all its ramifications. And in this respect, CA will ensure that we carry out the necessary institutional reforms as a matter of top priority. And we talked about one of them. One of them was the civil and public service reform. Because without an effective and an efficient civil service system, the issue of public governance will always elude all of us. Even the structure, when government changed in 2016, and we all said that we were not satisfied with that government, it was a dictatorial government. And we groaned under the burden of that government. And we wished that things can change. And we expressed that wish by voting that government out. Then when the new government came, we thought we will see the change. Tell me the new ministry that has been created, or an old ministry that was considered not suitable and was eliminated. The same ministries that that government had are the same ministries that we still have today. The same institutional framework. So, well, are we saying that nothing was wrong with the structure? Nothing was wrong with the system? Something was only wrong with the personalities? And so now that we remove the personalities, then everything is correct. But is it correct? It is not. So we will establish, CA government will establish a framework for good governance and transparency. And a framework means a system that will ensure that when we roll out the new government structure, the system will ensure that that government structure is under constant monitoring and review for continuous enhancement. And that's what is important. A government that is relevant, a government structure that is relevant, a governance structure that is relevant today is not necessarily relevant in 10 years' time. The global dynamics, even the domestic dynamics have changed. But we cannot be in 2020 and be living in 1965. The two are not the same. So it's either that is done willfully or it's done ignorantly. I hope it is not done willfully. And I do also hope that it's done ignorantly, because we are not an ignorant people. Gambians are not an ignorant. They are an educated and sophisticated people. A CA government will institutionalize stronger public systems and processes. It will de-individualize governance. Governance is not going to depend on the personality of one person. And it is already evident in the way in which CA is presenting itself to the public. You know, you had our posters before the Congress. You know? And even though everybody had his grapevine information that somebody might be the flag bearer or the presidential candidate, CA did not put the presidential candidate out there in the posters. But I have seen that happen. So why are you going to Congress anyway? Why are you going to Congress? You might as well stay in your house and let it go, because the decisions have been made already. So CA will establish a cost-effective human factor techniques and address political and bureaucratic corruption. And the best way to eliminate or actually neutralize corruption is institutional effectiveness and efficiency. Holding people and locking them up, and then others come, they are so related to you, it's difficult for you to lock them up. And in the evening, some people will come, dama ñëwoon si yow, dama ñëwoon nuyu si, xam nga rek diw, suma bii la, waaye xam nga dégg naa ne problème bii la am, you know, waaye nga bàyyi sa xel rek, noo mën a def. No, these things cannot work. But when they come to you, say, well, wow, li ma mën a def, de dinaa ko def, waaye xam nga moom fii loi fi ne. ñi lee moom lii, ñii ñooy def lii, institution ñooy def lii, so bàyyi xel daal lu mut a def la. So that ñun ñëpp ñu mun a bàyyi xel ñu xam ne dafa am sarta yu ñoo dundee. These are the institutions. So institutionalization and effecting those institutions and making sure there are efficiencies and making sure that there is adherence to established processes and procedures. System-based. And if we have problems with the process, we change them. That's how a society grows. That is what CA is going to bring about. And if that happens, really, it will almost certainly eliminate corruption. And I'm not sure whether corruption is possible to completely eliminate corruption. But the best is to take it to the most insignificant level. And then we use the penal code to continue to punish the very adventurous people. You know? Because that's the penal code we even we have in the divine courts. Huh? We have been sent prophets and we have given opportunity for redemption. And then if you continue not to adhere, then when you die, that's our belief, you go to a determination. If the determination is made that you should be penalized using the divine penal code, then you know, danga dem si safara. You know, danga dem safara or nga dem adjana. It's a penal code. And that's part of human nature. But you know, heaven is so institutionalized and structured with proper systems that I'm not sure anybody else who escapes into heaven will be able to sin in heaven. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. You know, if we put all together good structures and good processes and systems and procedures, then it is unlikely that corruption will be an issue. And resources will be available for efficient use in the interest of everybody. So CA government will establish effective foreign policy and strategically engage the diaspora. You know, I was involved in generating an incomplete foreign policy strategy for the Gambia. We started just in 2016, and it was funded by the UNDP. By the time we finished, there was a change in government. We had a new government and a new foreign minister. And so they summoned me, and I went back and I said, okay, this is how far we have gone. We've got to the draft stage. But can I have because, well, the changes that happened was not at the civil service level, well, the only civil service change was the permanent secretary, but the minister changed. And so I said, can you have these two heads look at this instrument and tell us what they think, coming a new government with its own principles and policies. But you know, what we discovered in the Gambia from Sadauda to today is that this foreign ministry is not a foreign ministry. It does not oversee foreign policy. It is a secretariat for foreign policy to the office of the president. And unfortunately, we now understand why foreign policy pronouncements were made by the Secretary General and Minister of Presidential Affairs rather than the foreign minister. I'm not going to call names now. So now, and foreign policy is our relationship with other countries. If I am going to relate with you, I have to find out what it is in, what is in it for me. So the way we relate with other countries depends on what is in it for us. Even the biggest economy and the most sophisticated and the richest economy in the world, the US, you know, although Donald Trump has overdone it, but really US foreign policy is American interest. Who are we not to pursue our interests? So the way in which we relate with foreign governments, foreign international organizations, will be on mutual benefit. Mutual benefit. But there must be benefit for us in it. And our foreign policy will ensure that we strategically engage our diaspora to enhance international relationship outtake. Yeah.
Dominic abarka bake eno kuma kongol betiada ko nkamin fonung drong kaberi nga kumase da me wolon ko ferol mi alon ko nga wala landi kaje ko bankola na fulo nga doku banye na fulo nyindo ko foy sata ya dundi banko dingol kang nada nga data kende abunda jube Contextual Citizens Alliance ning sita ngaman sa kunda tamba jalale ko bankola na fulo e gambe dingol be nafa mbeo kala nyaade lon ko bankola na fulo ngaduni banko dingol mbeo kala nyaadi la wolon kaje ko dinkiral to tarinke ngal lopitan kendo loje isaje gambe dingol be dawoda gambe bankun kanjang ni sasata isitano atrema ite jam falafang ise jarano bawon tolma fa munatinna ni be kiyang for example inyanta kada fo farafany wala fo banjul kata ka jaral kendo soto je so ko bankola na flo ni mbadundi la jata kende akang mba yelale ko banko dingo be dawda gambe bankun kang ela dinkiral to tarinke lopitan kendo le taraje e bagas kendo soto anen docteur kendo le taraje nadan ko fanam bankola na flo mba dundila bankola karangole kang puddi ngole karang kendo soto bawo hani kabin kamin fodro wolon ko monatinna senela mi alon ka abe nyamina le wala nyani ja dingo munana dingo nyande kana tuba banku pour ka karang kendo soto ndol ngajele ko adingo se sino nyane je ay karang kendo soto ko tuba banku dingo be karang kendo soto ka nyamen karamun kendo lo din kiral to tarinke kaje ko Gambia di o Gambia ding ilafta kala menti ese kanati bawo bi o montara kering bi do be je idingol lafta ka ke pilotol ti bari ite kenola pilotri bawo man sa kunda man karamun kendo lo din kiral to kaje ko Gambian di o Gambia ding lafta kala menti ay kati dol lafta kala menti ka kati le ba dol bo ka kat an be banko kilo ngale kan so ko bankulo na fulo ba doni la wala nya anin ka ke fonding ke kaje ko fonding ke fane do ko soto e meccol karang na musol nge bondi batal kono ifanang si lopitan kendol soto ela marcel betia e yurwa dinkirale yurwa ngok bankola na fulo nyinga do ku ko dominique a fo nyamen ko fero lebe landila sa mena talale nga dundi banko dingol fango kan comme luñ don wax rek moy ne comme rewmi lu am solo la way fokk ñu liggéey ko way waxtaan lañ si jéego yoo xam ne yooyu lañ war a jël pour liggéey koom-koom bi pour dëkk bi am alal waa alal gi nag foog ñu jël ko na dugal ko si nit ñi naka lañ ko dugalee moo ñu gis ne képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga am loo xam ne danga ko soxla képp koo xam ne fii nga juddoo fii nga dikka di nga am soo feebaree mun nañ laa faj te fekk warloo dem fu sori lu tax ki nekk foo ñi war a dem bee Brikama war a dem bee Farafeñe war a Banjul pour mu mun ko faj su feebaree déedéet foo ñi Kiyang fépp foo xam ne Gambia la nekk képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga war ngaa am fu ñu laa mën a fajee place yu sell la am garab yu baax am bagage yu baax am docteur yu baax soo feebaree ñu faj la fekk lu dem fu sori lu tax jigéen boo xam ne mu ngi motu mu bugg a wasin ñu war ko teg ci kaw saret bi dox ay ñaari waxtu dem ba ci kaw tali bi ñuy ñaan gele-gele pour mu yóbbu ko ba lopitaan pour mu mën a wasin wóolu warta am ci dëkk bii nii ku war a wasin sa dëkkuwaay sa gox war naa mën a am jumtuwaay yoo xam ne war nga faa mën a nekka nga am ñu muñ laa faj loo xam ne soxla nga am ko fa ci jàng bi tamit même chose mooy ne képp koo xam ne xaleel nga war a jànga warloo dem fu sori pour am xam-xam boo soxla pour mun a tekki ci réew mi mooy ne war nañu jël alali réew mi dugal ko ci école yi ci gox yi sampa schools yu baax yi foo mun a nekk nga am jàng bu baax comme loolu lañ doon waxtaan ci mbir bi seet tamit dugal ko ci ndaw yi ñu mun a am liggéey mun a am xam-xam yoo xam ne mun nañ see am liggéey mun fee tekki ak suñ jigéen yi ak ñoo xam ne ñoo nekk ci réew mi. You mentioned something very important, Mr. Chair, which is the diaspora. I'd like to emphasize a bit on that. We have to see how we can harness the potential of the diaspora. There's a lot of wealth and knowledge in the diaspora. A CA government will strategically engage and come up with the right policy frameworks to see how we can benefit from the knowledge and the wealth of the diaspora. In our foreign policy, we will focus more on our region, sub-region. Unfortunately, we trade less with Senegal, our next neighbor, and Nigeria than we trade with China and France, which are farther away. How can we create that foreign policy whereby we can collaborate more in the sub-region? Because our people face common threats. The threat the Senegalese farmer is facing in Casamas is the same threat the Gambian farmer is facing in Kiang. Climate change, the same security threats. So the threats are the same, the opportunities are the same, so why can't we work together for the interest of our people? So we are going to come up with a foreign policy which looks more, not only inwards, but at least, like Dominic had said, which will reset our relationship with our neighbors, create an environment whereby we have a more integrated sub-region for the benefit of our people. And you mentioned fighting corruption. We don't want to go into details here because of time, but this is a key component of our manifesto because we believe that for the Gambia to move, we must fight corruption. We must close the leakages so that the money is repurposed and spent on social projects. How do you do that? You focus on human security, of course. Currently, most of our security threats, for me or for us, are not waking up one morning and we are annexed by our neighbor or there'll be another country coming to invade us. No. It's about environmental distress, conflict over land, obviously, conflict over resources, conflict over forests, for example, climate change. These are our threats. A youthful population, frustrated, hopeless, no jobs, no hope for the future, all concentrated in urban Gambia. These are our threats. How do we invest in young people to get jobs, to live a dignified life? That is ensuring that we have a stable society. How do we ensure that land is equitably distributed? That is to ensure